Hello friends, this is my review of the OnePlus 6T. I've been using this phone for a week and my experience with it has been really good. Let's get into it. So what I have here with me is the midnight black version. There is another mirror black version and I'll speak about the difference in just a second. The screen itself, it's a 6.41 inch optic AMOLED screen. It is a full HD resolution. The front is Corning Gorilla Glass 6, which makes it more resistant to scratches and it will not break easily. The back is a Corning Gorilla Glass 5 and it is actually having an aluminium frame going around the phone and it's fused into the two glasses. So basically it's an aluminium frame with a glass front and back. The glass on the back is a matte finish texture to it. This makes it less prone to fingerprints. You have the volume keys on the left hand side. You can see that over here. That's the volume key. You have the power switch on the right hand side. That's over here. And you have the alert slider. Now the alert slider has been there on the OnePlus phones. This is something that you also find on iPhones. And it is really useful, especially when you're going for a meeting where you have to mute your phone or put it on vibrate mode without actually fiddling through the settings or switching on the phone. So it's just a simple slider. You can see there that's silent. You can put it to vibrate mode or in ring mode. So this one is a really good addition to this phone. On the top, you actually can see there's a small notch still. This is called the teardrop notch. This is also present on the Oppo R17, R17 Pro phones. For those of you who do not know, OnePlus and Oppo, they kind of have the same, in a way, heritage. The companies are linked because they all were originating from the same parent company. They belong to one of the same groups. You can read up more on that on the internet. So the screen itself is, as I said, it's quite good. It's a full HD resolution and you do have a few screen calibration modes which you can change to make the display more accurate. I usually just leave it on the default. And the overall feel of the phone, it's premium. It's got a good weight distribution to it. Doesn't feel top heavy in the hand and it's nice. This phone has a good premium feel to it. Next, let's talk about the cameras. So this phone has dual cameras on the back. The main shooter is a 16 megapixel which has a f1.7 aperture and this one is optically stabilized. The secondary lens is a 20 megapixel, but effective it outputs also as a 16 megapixel image, but also f1.7. Both of them, the lenses, they are 25 mm wide, which means that this one does not have an ultra wide angle lens or does not have a telezoom lens. This is the same lens or the same width on both the lenses. The secondary lens is there purely for information of depth when you're taking portrait images. So that's what this lens serves is for. It's a very different implementation compared to Huawei, Samsung, iPhone, who use the secondary lens for a better purpose, and at the same time they also do use it for depth information. So this is a strange decision for, coming from OnePlus as to why they are still sticking to just the secondary lens doing just depth information when it can actually do something better, like the ultra wide angle, which is good, and it's present on Huawei phones now, the Mate 20, Mate 20 Pro, and also the LG. Or they can do a telezoom like it is present on the Samsung or on the iPhone. But apart from that, the image quality wise, this one camera, it's quite good. The rear cameras can do video recording at 720p, 1080p. It can also do at 1080p 60 fps, which is quite smooth. It looks nice. You can do 4K at 30 or 4K at 60 FPS. Again, all of this is supposed to be optically stabilized, and I don't really have much issues with the stabilization of this, except maybe the colors look slightly washed out in the videos. The camera can also shoot slow motion video. This is at 720p 480 fps or at 1080p 240 fps. 1080p looks nice, especially in lower lighting conditions. 720p looks kind of blotchy. I will be showing you some of the samples so that you can see how this works. Apart from that, you do get portrait mode. Again, portrait mode is pretty simple and works quite well. So for example, you can see it's got good subject separation over here, and if I take that picture, you can see not bad. So yeah, portrait mode works okay. I'll show you some samples after this. Inside the teardrop notch on the front, it actually houses a 16 megapixel camera which has a f2.0 aperture. Selfies look good, but they are kind of I would say washed out sometimes, and they do lack dynamic range. So I'm going to show you a couple of photos that I've taken on this phone. So let's just go through those. So alright, so you can see over here, that's a selfie that I took. If you see the subject separation, it's actually quite good. It did recognize my hair, or the little of it there, and the background has a nice blur to it. But if you see over here, a lot of the details in the background are gone. It's just white overblown. So this is quite typical for the selfie camera. Others, I've just taken some shots here. So you can see the color reproduction is really good. Colors are very accurate. I would say the dynamic range is also good. This is all from the rear camera. So of course, all of these are quite good pictures. This is another image that I took inside a mall. So you can see it's able to actually maintain a lot of the detail, and color accuracy is nice. Overall, without going into too many of the photography terms, the rear cameras are good. In daylight, they are excellent. You would not really notice a difference unless you put it side by side with a Pixel 2 or Pixel 3 image, or with an iPhone image, which depending on preference, they are slightly warmer or will be slightly colder, which means they have either a bluish tinge to the photo, or they've got look slightly warm, which is orangish, and that really depends on preference as well. Close-up macro shots are also quite good. The detail is nice, and you can get really close to the subject and take the picture as long as you've got good lighting. This is a sample of the portrait shot which is taken from the rear camera, and you can see the subject has a nice blurring to it. Now this is different from when you take the picture with the selfie camera, where I've noticed again, as mentioned earlier, that the whites seem to be totally overexposed, and the light sources, they get like blown out. That doesn't really happen with the rear camera. So the rear camera HDR is something that probably kicks in much more often. There is an option to force the HDR to manual, which is something that you can do. So in this case, if you look over here, you can actually go to the HDR, which is in photo. You drag the slider up, you go to settings, and you can actually set the HDR to manual, which will allow you to set the HDR to forced, which means always on, or you can set it to auto, which means the phone decides when it should trigger, or you can set it to disabling the HDR. So this is something you can also do with the front camera. So the HDR option is still available, and you can turn it off, you can enable it, or you can leave it on auto. You also can enable beauty mode or disable beauty mode, which is slight face retouching option, which is available with this camera. So again, going back to the photos, so yes, this photo over here, it's pretty good. Color reproduction, reds, yellows, all are pretty nice, excellent. For the price that this retails for at this stage, at this moment, the photos are good. But I will be covering more on the details of pricing and what are the alternatives soon. These are some night shots I've taken. So you can see quite good detail retention, and some light sources have a slight overblown look to them, but still these are really good images. For extreme low light situations, the phone doesn't really do that well, but again, overall this is good. So here I have a photo of my wife. So yeah, you can see subject separation is really good. The background blurring is really good as well. Color reproduction, yellows, hues, orange source lights, all is handled pretty well by this camera, by the rear camera to be specific. So we have a few options. Okay, so this one is actually recording of the slow-mo recording that I did. So let me just show you the details of it first. So this one, if you see, is a full HD slow-mo recording. This one is a full HD slow-mo. So you can see the quality is pretty good. Doesn't record any sound, but it's actually quite decent, right? Yeah. So going back to the next one, this is at 720p, but the recording is at 480 frames per second, which is even slower. But I would always recommend using the 240 frames per second. That slow-mo is good enough unless you really want something like extremely slow. Only then go for this mode, because 720p the quality is not that great. This is another example. So if you can see over here, we took a selfie and the background is completely blown off. This will not be something that you see happening if you're using the Note 9. S9 Plus still suffers from this for some weird reason, even though it was the same camera. So yes, you do not notice this kind of issues on the Note 9 or the Pixel 3 XL. I will be reviewing the Pixel 3 XL later, so you can see those images compared to this in that review. But apart from that, yes, overall the camera is a good camera and definitely worth using as a camera phone. So it's good. The next thing I want to talk about, which is good on this phone, is the battery life. So this phone comes with a 3700 mAh battery, which is 400 mAh more than the previous model. The previous one had a 3300 mAh battery, and the battery life on this has been excellent, I would say. I typically charge my phone once I start hitting 40% to 50% of battery, and by 50% mark, typically I have 2.5 hours to 3 hours of screen on time. So that is for my typical usage, where I'm doing a lot of chat applications, I'm browsing the internet, occasional Facebook, a lot of camera usage, and also I'm listening to music. So on most of these days I'm getting pretty good battery life. I've taken some screenshots to just show you the battery life. So if you can see over here at 78%, I had a screen usage of 1 hour 6 minutes, which is quite good. So since I do not actually let my phone discharge beyond 50 to 40%, I normally have most screenshots at 54%. You can see at 54% always my screen usage is around 2 hours 25 minutes, so around 3 hours. 6 hours screen on time is an excellent screen time for me, for my usage, for my heavy usage. And I run on auto brightness, so this is not at full brightness. That may impact your battery life a bit more, but of course the screen does get pretty bright even at auto brightness, so I don't really change that setting. So with that and with my usage, this is excellent battery life. So for the charging itself, the phone ships with a 20 watt charger. So you can see the output is a 5 volt 4 ampere. It actually outputs a 20 watt amperage current to charge the phone, and is super quick. Typically it'll take me around 1 hour 15 minutes, 1 hour 20 minutes to fully charge the phone, and in 30 minutes time it can charge half of the phone battery. So it's really good for quick top-ups. The phone does not have any wireless charging, but one benefit or one good thing about dash charging, that's what this is called, dash charger, is that when you're using this, your phone does not overheat even if you're using the phone. So all the heat, whatever circuitry needs to be done in order to make sure that the phone doesn't heat up during charging, that's actually maintained. All the tech is in this power brick over here, so the phone itself remains cool and you can continue using it, and it will still continue to do fast charge, which is quite different from a lot of other fast chargers where if you're using the phone, they slow down the charging dramatically. This is something that I find an issue even on the Pixel 3 XL still, even though it's so much more expensive, does have some issues with the charging at times. Apart from that though, one thing to note is a lot of the other phones that support fast charging like Samsung Pixel 3 XL, they can actually use a power delivery charger. So I have seen Samsung can charge fast with power delivery chargers or the PD chargers for USB-C, and which is being used by Google Pixel, but this phone will not fast charge with any other tech. So it Qualcomm QC3, which is Quick Charge 3, 3.0, 4.0, all of those are going to be charging this phone at a normal pace, or you can say a slow pace. So if you want to have quick charging on this phone, fast charging on this phone, you need to be using the adapter and the cable that came with the adapter with the phone. So the phone is running on a Snapdragon 845. It's an octa-core processor. The performance is excellent. And this is not just due to the Snapdragon 845 processor in it. A lot of other phones also do have it. What makes this phone a screamer in performance is the optimization done by OnePlus to the Oxygen OS. So that is the OS that is running on this phone. It's called Oxygen OS. That's the name they have given to their operating system. It is running on Android 9 or Android Pie. I wouldn't even say it's a skin on top. You can see actually that it's literally like stock Android, and performance wise it's very good. I don't normally game on the phone, so I just have maybe a few games, so I can just show you some. So for example, if you're looking at this, this is the game that I normally play if I'm bored on flights and all, Samurai 2. The graphics is pretty good and there's no lag at all. You can also see if you're playing the latest games, which is PUBG or any of the other games as well. Those games also, there will be no lag. So the performance of the phone is very good. And Oxygen OS is heavily optimized, not heavily skinned, heavily optimized to deliver real good performance. The software of this phone is the main reason to get this phone. A lot of people like Pixel for the stock Android experience. Trust me, the software on OnePlus is sometimes slightly better, and probably it's going to be a lot of hate for this, but that's the truth. So next up, I just want to quickly walk you through some of the settings that are available specifically in the OnePlus 6 or the OnePlus Oxygen OS. So first up, you have ambient display, so you can actually just enable that, and what it does is it can show you certain notifications, it can show you the clock, or it can show you any other messages that you've got. So it's quite simple, you just have to pick it up and it will show you the detail in that manner. So again, useful. It's not an always on display, but again, always on display is probably also going to be running, is going to be using up the battery. The reason being that it runs all the time. ambient display is a much better implementation, at least for me, because when I pick up the phone, that's when I'm looking at the phone, that's when I want to see the details, not all the time, even when I'm not looking at the phone. Next, you have a reading mode. So the reading mode is quite good. Simply put, what it does, you can see over here. Now, right now, the text is all blue. If I enable it, it makes the entire screen a grayscale mode. So this is easier on the eyes, especially if you're reading, let's say, certain books at night, or just reading books in general, where you want to have, a paper kind of look to the book. This one does help with that. Not exactly e-paper, but it's better than having all the glaring colors straight on you. You can disable that from the notification shade itself, so that's also a good feature. Next, I want to show you is the navigation bar and gestures, and also the quick gestures. So quick gestures, you have options to flip to mute. So if your phone is ringing, you just flip the phone. So let's say if you get a call in this manner, you just put it like this, you pick it up and put it back like that, and the ringer will mute. You have a 3-finger screenshot. This is very useful, because otherwise you have to press the home button, the power button and the volume down key to take a screenshot. What you can do with this is just slide down, and that takes the screenshot. You can also answer calls using a gesture. So essentially, if you enable this, if you see that the phone is ringing, you can just bring it to your ears and you can answer the phone with that. These are not, I would say, gimmicks anymore. Some of these are genuinely useful, especially the flip to mute and the 3-finger screenshot. The other option you have is double tap to wake. So you can actually just double tap the screen to wake it, and that's useful when you want to just quickly open it up so that the face unlock works, or fingerprint reader works. So you can use that. And you have some other options also, where you can actually assign what app you want to use depending on what you draw on the screen when it is off. So over here, I've just left it on the default. The options are draw an O to open the camera and draw V to turn on the flashlight. So let me just show you that quickly. So I draw an O, and that launches the camera. So that's pretty neat. Let me do it again. Draw an O, camera launches. Let's go back, and I draw a V, and you can see the flashlight launched. So draw a V again, flashlight's off. Draw a V again, on, off. So the off-screen gestures are genuinely useful, and I really like these off-screen gestures as well. Next up is the alert slider. So I've already shown you this, and you can actually further fine-tune the settings for each of the alert positions or the slider positions that you select. So you do have completely silent, you've got vibrate only, and you've got ring modes. And in this window, under the settings, you can actually select what setting you want to assign for each of those. So when in silent, you can actually decide if it mutes the media volume as well, or only alarms. When it's in vibrate, you can define if alarms get an exception, that alarms are always going to be ringing. And in ring mode, you can decide if you want to still make the phone vibrate for calls or not. So these are just minor settings, but they make a lot of sense, especially when you don't have to fiddle, go to the notification bar, or press the volume button all the way down to mute it. All these alert slider settings are really useful for that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the security options to unlock the phone. So you do have a fingerprint scanner still, but it's under display. You already seen me using it, and that is quite good compared to something like the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, which also has a under display fingerprint scanner, but it's not really so good. It is giving me errors at times, but compared to that, the OnePlus fingerprint unlock is really good. So you can see I've registered 2 fingers. If I unlock it, okay, so this one is an issue that I wanted to talk about later, but then so it's happening now. When you set up 2 fingerprints to unlock the phone, if you use the same fingerprint that you set up earlier, or you've been using constantly to unlock the phone, it works pretty well. The moment you switch between the fingers and you go to use another finger to do the unlock, it may not work. And I've seen that again, it happens a few times. So now it's unlocked with this finger. I'm gonna lock it, I unlock it again, now it's working. But what you saw over there was something that I've been facing on and off, especially when switching fingers. So probably this would be something that they can address with a software update. Another option that you have to do the unlock is using face unlock. So that one, you just have to register your face, and then you can use that. Just by looking at the phone, you can unlock it. So registration is pretty simple. You just look at the phone, it'll map your face, and that's it. That's done. So once you add your face data to the phone, you can just switch it off. When you switch it on again and just look at the phone, that's it. It'll unlock straight off. So once again, it's on, unlocked. So this is the second option, but of course there have been certain, I would say, reports or articles on the internet saying that this was easily fooled by somebody using a photo or by a twin. So if you're really security conscious, this may not be the best option to use, but this is really very convenient. So overall, this is a really good phone, but there are certain issues that I've noticed. It may matter to you. These are not so critical and important for me. Some of them are, but I just wanted to list down the issues that I've seen on this phone. So first issue that I saw, and which I already mentioned, is the fingerprint scanner. If you switch between two fingerprints, sometimes the fingerprint scanner does not work. So that is a slight problem. But if you're consistently using just one fingerprint set, let's say your right thumb or the left thumb constantly, then the fingerprint scanner is good. It only has a single bottom firing speaker, so it's very easy to actually muffle it out. Let me just show you by playing a quick video. So alright, I've just brought up one video here and I'm just playing the audio. So you can see over here, this is not a speaker grill. You see, nothing happens when I press that, but if I muffle this, that's it, the sound goes off. So the reason why this happens is because this is just for the look of it. Let me mute this now. So basically, this one is not a speaker grill. It's just there for the symmetry of the phone and no headphone jack. So we'll come to that. This is the only speaker that it has. You do have a small cut here for the speaker, but that is more for the earpiece, not really a speaker. So only one bottom firing speaker. Doesn't really bother me much, but if you are holding a phone like this and you're watching YouTube or you're playing games, it's very easy to muffle the sound. So yeah, that's another issue that I've noticed. Next, no VoLTE support. So it does not support VoLTE for Singapore telcos. At least right now on StarHub, it's not working. I had the same issue last time when I was on Singtel also, it's not working. If anybody else using this and it's working, please comment and I will update it accordingly. So why is VoLTE or voice over LTE so important? Just to give you a scenario, I finished a meeting, one of my meetings, and I came down. I was waiting for a taxi. I couldn't find a taxi, and just when I was about to make a booking, I got an urgent call, and it was a conference call, and there was something important, and I was discussing things on the call, and I tried to book a cab, and I could not. The reason being because I'm on a data connection. Without voice over LTE, you will be using, when you're making a voice call, you do not have a data connection. So that, depending on what is your usage scenario, it may not matter to you, or it may matter to you. Also, for example, if you're going to, let's say, a remote site, you're not in office, you don't have Wi-Fi, you've used your phone to do tethering, and then you have to get into a call. So you will lose data connection. So you have to choose either call or data. So that is the impact of not having voice over LTE. The phone does support LTE, so it has good data speeds. That's not the issue. It's just voice over LTE is not supported. It does not have a headphone jack, but I've been using Bluetooth headphones now for quite a long time. A lot of the other phones also don't have the headphone jack anymore, except for LG and Samsung. And based on what I've seen on the internet, it seems that Samsung may also join the gang of not having a headphone jack soon. So this is not really much of a concern now. But yes, I do know some people complain that when they go into, let's say, they're using their car and they don't have Bluetooth, they want to just connect the headphone jack to the auxiliary. That's an issue. So for that, you may still have to use the dongle. Not the prettiest of solutions, but that is how things are now, and that's what we are moving forward or moving towards. Next, even though this is a glass back phone, it does not have wireless charging. It's not such a big issue, and as I said, this dash charger, amazing. It can top up the phone really quick, so I don't really miss wireless charging. I do use it with my Pixel phone, with my Huawei, and I'm not such a big fan of it. I mean, because normally I just keep it there for like 5-10 minutes. This can charge it like much faster. Wireless chargers don't. So, but yes, it does not have wireless charging. It is not IP rated. The phone does not have any kind of IP rating. OnePlus does say that it will survive a small, like a shower in the rain outside, but of course you cannot take it for swimming. And I can confirm that this is true. Singapore, we have a lot of rains all the time. So I was caught in a rain just like 2 days back, where I did get drenched. This one was in my pocket. It did get drenched as well, but if you can see, that's absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. But will I go swimming with this? No, I don't think so. That probably will kill this phone. So for the occasional, rains or things like that, or an occasional spill, as long as you clean it up quickly, don't let the water get in. I guess it's pretty okay. So no IP rating is something that the OnePlus does. This is my speculation. They're probably doing it to save on the certification cost, because to get a phone IP certified, there's additional cost to it. So that will bump up the pricing. So that's why they are not doing that. But they do they do have a lot of water seals all around the phone. You can check other reviews where they will show you that this phone does work even after being dunked into a bowl of water. So yeah, those are pretty good reviews, but I can't really try that with my unit. But no IP rating, that's one of the things. And apart from that, I don't think there's any other drawbacks to this phone. One thing I would like to add before I end the video is alternatives to this phone. So at this moment, this phone is retailing for 950 Sing dollars. That's for 8GB RAM, 128GB storage. So what are the alternatives that you can get for this price or even lower? The most closest alternative, and actually coming in at a more budget price, is going to be the Xiaomi Mi 8. That's retailing now for 605 Sing dollars. That's for the 64GB. 650 for the 128GB. It also comes with 8GB of RAM, and the camera is much better compared to this. And recently it has also got something called as the night mode. OnePlus has something called as night sight now, nightscape. It's just over here. So it's just called as night. Most of the photos I took with this were super blurry, not so good, and I wouldn't even consider this a feature at this moment. So yeah, the Mi 8 has a much better camera, much better night mode. It is cheaper at 605 Sing dollars. It also feels premium built. The only thing that is good or rather better in OnePlus, as I said, is the software. So if you are looking for a good camera experience and a fast phone, you don't mind the software so much, the Mi 8 is also a good recommendation. The other option that you have is the P20 Pro. That's retailing for 800 Sing dollars. It's got a better camera as well, got a traditional fingerprint scanner, but the software is Oh my god, it's terrible. The reason is because now you cannot unlock the bootloader for the Huawei phones anymore, and at least in Singapore, when you are downloading updates to your Huawei phone, you are probably going to be waiting like 3 months, 4 months before you get an update. I will see how the Mate 20 Pro works with this regard. But if you are using let's say you've traveled to the States or you've gone to UK, you had a prepaid SIM, even if the SIM card is expired, you can actually put that SIM into your P20 Pro or your Mate 20 Pro and you get an update immediately. So that's an issue with Singapore units, and software wise it's not the best experience, but the phone is fast. Then the other one is of course the new phone, which is the Mate 20 Pro. So the Mate 20 Pro is retailing for 1,250 now, but you can also go for the Mate 20, which is, again, it's not waterproof, does not have wireless charging, but has a much better camera. I would say selfies suck, but the rear camera is really good. It's got a very good night mode and it's got a traditional fingerprint scanner as well. So for the price of 820, if you're looking for an alternative to the OnePlus 60 and you don't really mind the software, the Mate 20, the software is also fast. I mean, compared to the P20 Pro, they have really improved that. So the EMUI 9 on that is also very good, but it's not the best experience the way OnePlus 6T can give you. And of course, the last one at this price range, because there are phones that are better, but I'm only going to be speaking about phones that are up to the 950 price range. So for 930 Sing dollars, you can also buy the Note 9. And that is a very, very good buy for that price. The software is the only problem. Sometimes it's glitchy, but it is still fast. It's got a better camera, a better rear camera, better front camera. The battery life is comparable, but sometimes on certain days it does run out like faster than on other days. So it's not consistent experience, but overall I would say it's still good. And it has wireless charging, and of course it's got that S Pen. So for $950, if you're not so enthusiastic about the software, the best option to go for would be the Note 9. So that's been my experience with the phone. Overall experience with this phone has been very good. As I said, the single main selling point is the software experience. That's why you should go for the OnePlus 6T. It gives you like a Pixel or even a better experience than a Pixel 3, but in a much lower costing package. It's like literally 2/3 the price of a Pixel or iPhone and has got a lot of good features. And if you don't mind, going for a slightly inferior low light camera, this is the phone to get. This is really good. Thanks for watching.